Have you ever thought to yourself, my story doesn't matter? Like, I have so much to say, and no one really wants to hear any of it. Well, great, because this video is for you. You need to understand a couple of things, right? Your story, even if it's original, even if you think it's ordinary, if you think it's too regular, degular, I would submit to you that it's actually very extraordinary because it's unique, it's individual, and it's tied to you. But at the end of the day, you might not believe that. And this is the thing, people remember stories more than facts. So, what does that leave us? Well, that means that we have to be very clear about our stories and share our narratives rather than trying to crunch the numbers or trying to be very rigid with our structures. Let's start with story. So, your story can unlock someone's courage. It can do a lot. But there's no point in having that unless you truly believe that your story is worth telling. So let's talk about this because it's one thing to believe that you can do that, but we actually have to come up with a couple of points because you can't just start blabbing your story out. That wouldn't make sense. So what does that mean? That means that we have to do this. We have to structure this. And I spoke about this on the live on Saturday. You need 3 pieces of a structure. This is the first point to telling a good story that captivates your audience. Structure. Structure is freedom. Because they're not restrictions, they're safeguards. Safeguards that allow you to be able to move your story without just going off of the rails. And this goes down to 3 things. You need a setup. You need a struggle. You need a shift. So, this means that your personal story can use this framework. What does this mean? Setup. How do you begin? Where am I? How does the story begin? What's the context? Because I promise you that if you understand giving people context can allow them to understand how the story is supposed to begin, then you'll be just fine. So the setup is all important, very much so. Then we go to the struggle, because everything is going well as you're driving the bus of your dreams or you're telling the story, and we've all been in the LA class. We understand that there's obviously, there's rising action. There's a climactic moment that happens in a story. Now, you may not think that it's climactic every single part of your life, and I'm not telling you to be dramatic, but I am saying that there's actually more to it than you think. Every story has a climax. It has a high point. It has a point where, okay, we've reached peak, and now we have to start landing the plane. We have to start getting to the end, to the shift, to how we get to the succession, the conclusion, the resolution. So that means, okay, what is a struggle? When did I hit a wall? So if we use the setup, and then we go to the struggle, then we'll be able to follow what that means. And again, this is as simple as making it short and sweet. Because these 3 things, you have to do it within 60 to 90 seconds. So for example, if I talk about, I was somebody that was a student in elementary school, and we would go to these parks on a regular basis. I already start off with the setup of, okay, I was an elementary school student. We would go to these parks. So hopefully the story has to do with parks, because if it doesn't, I'm just blabbing here. So we talk about that. I went to the parks, and I was having a fun time. My aunt and my mom came through with Capri Suns, because doing Kool-Aid the regular way was just not going to work. You're just going to have a bunch of sugar-crazed children running around the block. But we did Kool-Aid Jammers and Capri Suns. I was a Capri Sun person, Pacific Cooler if I'm being very honest with you. But hey, you can choose what you'd like. Once I understand that, there's also personality behind how I speak. Then we get to the struggle. Now, the struggle does not have to be something cataclysmic, something insane, like, oh my gosh, I literally walked in and upon entering the park, the Capri Suns grew consciousness and started terrorizing the town. I don't need to say that. I don't need to say that a kid drowned on a Capri Sun. I don't need to say that, oh, I was marred by the school banning Capri Suns. Like, I don't have to say all of that. The struggle can just be what is the thing that changes for you. What happened? For me, I had a friend named Tyler. Tyler doesn't finish things, or didn't at the time. I don't know how he's doing right now. So if you're watching this, Tyler, it's been a while. But what happens when you get a whole bunch of Capri Suns and you're like, okay, that's fine. And you drink like a third of the thing in a pouch, and then you just like say, and then you just throw it. You just throw it, and then it doesn't even land at the like the trash can, because you think you're Kobe, but you're not. So you're just kind of like just throwing it. It's not even coming close to the trash can. It's just thrown over there, wherever it is. You do that, and then you realize you get to the climax, the landing of the plane. What was the reason why you shared the story, the shift? Because there has to be purpose. There has to be a point. And for me, it's just like I'd like to think that we should finish things. He never finished any of the Capri Suns. I feel like we don't finish our work. We'd rather procrastinate than live purpose-driven. Now, it doesn't have to be deep, but that's the way that I go about storytelling. Now, sometimes you could just simply say, okay, I was seeing this Capri Sun menace, just drinking everything, and then for me, I realized, okay, I'm never going to tell my mother to give him Capri Suns ever again. And our grocery bill has been lower ever since. Again, I land the plane, conclude, and we're good. So that's going to be important. Now, point two, that's what we get interesting here, because you got the story, and it would be a strong story. But what makes the story captivating? It's emotions. So consider, what does that mean? You feel it, you say it. I was pissed that Tyler drank all those Capri Suns at like 30% capacity and just dropped it and threw it. Because I would see the commercials of like, what about the people in these countries that can't afford water? And in my mind, I'm just a scarred 7-year-old thinking, okay, he's easily decimating countries by just wasting Capri Suns. He must be. Like him, he single-handedly is destroying the ecosystem by just wasting Capri Suns. Now, maybe as an environmentalist, you might just be like, grr. Maybe as a person, you might be like, bro, what? But it obviously is different depending on your audience. Some people have benefits. Some others don't like Capri Suns. So, it depends on that. But, again, you need to speak as if it's a real moment, because you have to paint the picture and engulf people in it. The next thing I would say is you should speak from a scar and not from like an open wound. You need to make sure that you're not trauma dumping. Like, if you haven't overcome it, you probably shouldn't speak on it. Because speaking from an open wound will lead you to bleed on people. Because it hasn't been patched up. So what does that mean? Does that mean that you're gonna just supposed to shut up forever? No, definitely sharing confidence with the people that you need to share with. But I'm not telling you to just go sharing your story to the world, to the public, to your circle of people that you may or may not trust all the way, and just telling them your business A to Z. Like, they should get like a couple letters, but not the whole alphabet. So that's important. And again, the way that you describe it, using alliteration, using, adjectives are going to be a great way for you to have vivid moments. So do that. Like, don't just narrate. Don't just read. That's so bleh. Be somebody that recreates. Paint the picture. Immerse your audience in that. And the last thing I would say is that you should practice authentically. So you should try your story and do it in different tones. Because the way that you say your story is going to be different based on your audience. Some people may like the comedic side of things. Some people may be dramatic. What did the Capri Sun do? Like, I'm not saying go novella with it, but I would definitely say, consider what it would be like. And now, for me, the best way for me to illustrate and talk about this is whenever I say to my students, "You good?" they think I'm joking, or they think I'm just asking that. But that's actually a teaching tool. Saying "you good" is a phrase that they talk about on a regular basis. So you take the phrase and you add emotion to it, because the way you change your emotion is going to be the way that's dictated what's going on and what you meant by that phrase. Uptoning it, right? Upward inflection by saying "you good" is kind of like a question that's more of like a cause for concern. Not because you're like genuinely concerned for them, but because you're like something's wrong with them. "Yo, you good?" may very well be kind of combative. Like, "Hey, like, why did you shove me, bro?" So that's something there. So, "You good?" can be more endearing. And obviously you use pausing and you use moments. You use eye contact. Because once you do that, you've already illustrated the fact that, you're listening in on what they're going through. And again, that's just "you good." Then we go off the rails to like something else, like, the way that you pause and the way that you speak certain things, like, "I ate grandma." "I ate grandma." Okay, automatically I'm like, okay, you probably ate some food in the mall or something. You should be good. "I ate grandma." Okay, I'm gonna just assume you were kind of nefarious and like you like ate, like you actually were a cannibal. "I ate grandma." That okay, you did it. We know it. We need to call every single like legal society to come get you. I don't even know what it is. "I ate grandma." Like that. You're nefarious, and I'm gonna run away because it sounds like you came off the pit of hell. You can go anywhere with any phrase, but the conversation, the statement, becomes that, and it also becomes the context, because now, well, what's the story? Like, what happened? "I ate grandma." Okay, what happened before you got into that moment, that scenario? You probably were at the mall with your friends. You got food. You realize, oh man, my grandmother's gonna make food. I'll just tell her not to make that much or any because I ate. Now, if you go the nefarious "I ate grandma" route, I'm not gonna recount the story because I don't think you could just fill in the blanks yourself. So let me just wrap up with saying this: your story is a bridge and also a blank canvas. You can do a lot. There's so many things you can do, and it starts getting fun and entertaining when you realize that you can craft anything, as long as you manipulate your voice and your tone to make sure that you're actually telling the story. So consider this. It can connect, it can heal, it can inspire, it can make people laugh. And I say this because it's my whole thing. Do it scared. Because you're probably terrified and you're wondering, that's a lot. And I don't know how people are going to receive it. My advice to you would be to tell it scared and see what happens. So, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. Post your story. See how people write the narratives. Create. And at the end of the day, we'll see what you really are made of. But until then, I'll see you on the next one. And may we always do it scared so we can do it successfully. Because you know you can. Because you're the champion that you will always be. Take care.